During the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, England experienced a period of stability and growth which significantly influenced its literary landscape. This era can be characterized by two main themes: settlement and expansion. Politically, England achieved a level of stability during this time, though there were still tensions, particularly regarding succession to the throne. They did not lead to open conflict. The unification of the English and Scottish crowns resolved long standing disputes between the two countries. This stable political environment was beneficial for the development of literature. This period marked a notable expansion in both intellectual and geographical realms. Knowledge from the East flowed into England, and new territories were being discovered in the West. Explorers like Hakluyt chronicled their journeys, bringing back not only physical treasures but also new ideas and perspectives. These discoveries had profound effects on literature, though their full impact is widely recognized. During Queen Elizabeth I, the Renaissance had a significant impact on England. There was a renewed interest in studying Greek, which brought new insights to various fields of knowledge. However, this passion for classical learning also posed a risk to the English language. Greek and Latin influences started to influence English, which had both positive and negative effects. English literature became more refined due to these classical influences, but it also faced challenges in maintaining its native characteristics. The Elizabethan era saw a remarkable increase in literary production compared to previous times. Historical circumstances encouraged a flourishing of writing, with a wide range of topics being explored. Famlets, treatises, and even personal attacks were common. Literary debates became significant on a national scale, reflecting a lively interest in literature during the period. The Elizabethan age was characterized by a strong romantic spirit, marked by a longing for the extraordinary and beautiful. There was a rebellion against the past alongside a daring spirit of adventure in various aspects of life, including literature. The era exuded a sense of vitality and freshness, contributing to significant literary achievements. The Elizabethan era witnessed the rapid development of drama, though it faced several challenges. Theatrical disputes and brawls among actors were common, leading to temporary closures of theatres. The drama also became entangled in contemporary controversies, leading to opposition from puritanical groups. Despite these challenges, the era produced remarkable dramatic works, notably by Shakespeare. Signs of decline emerged towards its end. Poetry flourished during the Elizabethan era, though not as prolifically as drama. There was a passionate interest in poetry, resulting in the creation of numerous works of great beauty and originality. English prose gained prominence during this period as it moved away from the influence of Latin tradition. Prose writing became more widespread and versatile, contributing to its rapid development. Interestingly, Scottish literature, which had shown promise in the previous age, faded from during the Elizabethan era. It did not resurface until the late 18th century. Edmund Spenser, born around 1552 in London, received education at Merchant Taylors' School and Cambridge University. Though his parentage remains unclear, he claimed connection to the noble Spencer family, likely belonging to a northern Flavian branch. After leaving Cambridge in 1576, Spencer's whereabouts are unknown for a few years, possibly spent in the north of England. He emerged in London in 1579, joining the literary circle of Sir Philip Sidney and the Earl of Leicester, who introduced him to Queen Elizabeth I and encouraged his poetic endeavors, particularly in classical meters. In 1580, Sidney's support led to Spencer's appointment as secretary to Lord Grey de Wilton, newly appointed Lord Deputy of Ireland. Spencer spent 18 years in Ireland, serving the English government and witnessing the turmoil of rebellion and unrest. His dedication was acknowledged with the grant of Kilcolman Castle and an estate in 1589. He returned to London in 1589 to publish the first three books of The Faerie Queene and revisited in 1595 with more installments. However, tragedy struck in 1598 when Kilcolman Castle was destroyed in a rebellion, resulting in the loss of one of Spencer's children. Disheartened, he returned to London, where he died in 1599, reportedly due to poverty, as noted by Ben Jonson. Spencer's collection of minor poems showcases his diverse literary talents. The Shepherd's Calendar consists of 12 eclogues, each representing a month of the year. These eclogues feature pastoral characters engaging in dialogue, demonstrating Spencer's skill in imitating classical pastoral models. His deliberate use of archaic language and dialect, typical of rustic settings, adds authenticity to the work. In 1591, Spencer published a volume of miscellaneous poems, including The Ruins of Time, The Tears of Muses, Mother Hubbard's Tale, and The Ruins of Rome. These poems vary in theme and style, showcasing Spencer's versatility as a poet. Amorety contains 88 Petrarchan sonnets celebrating the progression of his love, while Epithalamien is a joyous ode written in honor of his marriage. Colin Cloud's Come Home Again, published in the same year, offers personal insights but is criticized for being verbose. In 1596, Spencer released 4 hymns and Prothalamion. While Prothalamion is not as esteemed as his earlier works, it remains a notable composition. Spencer's shorter poems highlight his lyrical ability, though some critics find his style overly ornate and lacking intensity. Nevertheless, his odes possess a commanding presence, captivating both the mind and the ear. Works like Mother Hubbard's Tale exhibit Spencer's satirical prowess, though in a sharp and censorious manner. Spencer's prose work, A View of the Present State of Ireland, provides insights into his opinions on Irish affairs. Unfortunately, his views are notably hostile towards the Irish people, and his proposed methods for resolving issues appear extreme and could be perceived as promoting terrorism. The writing style of the family is described as unremarkable. The Faerie Queene, despite being Spencer's most significant work, is marked by complexity and beauty. Its composition spanned several years, with the first 3 books published in 1589 and the subsequent 3 in 1596. Additional fragments of Book 7 were released posthumously. The plot is intricate, with each of the 12 books focusing on a specific knight representing virtues like holiness, temperance, and chastity. Prince Arthur emerges as a central figure marrying Gloriana, the queen of fairyland. The allegory within the poem is multifaceted, intertwining moral and religious themes with political historical elements. Characters like Gloriana and Duessa symbolize real-life figures such as Queen Elizabeth and Mary, Queen of Scots. Despite its complex plot, the poem is celebrated for its richly wrought beauty, subtle melodies, and vivid imagery, which continue to influence poets like Milton, Keats, and Tennyson. Spencer's meticulous attention to technique, including the use of an archaic diction and the invention of words, contributes to the poem's enduring appeal. The Spenserian stanza, introduced by Spencer, remains a vital component of English poetry, enhancing the narrative pace and the interwoven harmonies. Spencer's adept use of alliteration, vowel music, and cadence adds to the sumptuousness of the poem, making it almost unrivaled in its artistic execution. John Donne, born in London to affluent Catholic parents, received his early education in the Catholic faith before attending Oxford and Cambridge. He later enrolled in the Inns of Court in 1592, where he balanced extensive reading with a lifestyle characterized by dissolute behavior. During the years 1590 to 1601, Donne wrote several works, including his satires, songs, and sonnets and elegies. Though these writings circulated widely in manuscript form, they were not published until 1633 posthumously. Donne initially aspired to a secular career, but his plans were thwarted by a clandestine marriage to his patron's niece, leading to a period of pursuing favor from the influential. In 1615, after a profound personal struggle, he joined the Anglican Church. By 1621, he ascended to the position of Dean of St. Paul's Cathedral, a role he occupied until his passing in 1631. He is notably recognized as the first prominent preacher within the Anglican tradition. Donne, unlike many poets of his time, stood out for his rejection of the conventional poetic styles favored by followers of Spenser. He strived for genuine thought and vivid expression in his poetry, resulting in forceful and vigorous verses, despite occasional rhythmic flaws. His critical nature and cynicism led him to pen satires like Of the Progress of the Soul, written in couplet form, expressing his discontent with the world around him in a coarse and blunt manner. In his love poems, known as the Songs and Sonnets, Donne delved into the intricacies of love with intensity and subtlety. Using vivid and sometimes startling language, he portrayed various lovers' moods in a colloquial rather than conventional manner. His rhythmic choices created a dramatic effect, simulating excited conversation and avoiding the smooth patterns preferred by his contemporaries. Donne's poems exhibited a wide range of pacing, echoing sounds, shortened lines, and unusual stress, all contributing to the effect of lively speech and swift thought. His focus was primarily on emotion, making him a psychological poet whose works revealed his complex personality. After 1610, Donne turned to religious poetry, especially after his wife's death in 1617. His religious verses, notably the 19 sonnets and lyrics like A Hymn to God the Father, showcased intense personal emotions and a unique force. They reflected his inner struggles before joining the Anglican Church, his fear of death, fascination with it, and longing for divine love. Donne's religious poetry displayed intellectual subtlety, scholastic learning, and the wit and conceits found in his love poems. Dryden once remarked that Donne affects the metaphysics, leading to the label of metaphysical applied to him and his followers. This term refers not only to the abstract reasoning, but also depth of philosophy, reasoning subtlety, and the blend of thought and devotion found in Donne's poetry. His work combined homely and sublime elements, light-heartedness and seriousness, creating a surprising fusion of diverse characteristics. The metaphysical poets, including Donne, were known for their striking and unconventional imagery, drawn from a wide range of knowledge and often leaving a lasting impact on readers. Donne's prose writings were extensive and notable for their quality. Pseudo-Martyr defended the oath of allegiance, while Ignatius, his conclave, satirized Ignatius Loyola and the Jesuits. However, Donne's most insightful prose can be found in his Devotions, where he recounts his spiritual struggles during a serious illness. These writings, akin to his poetry, reveal his personal struggles, psychological depth, and his contemplation of death and sin. Among Donne's most renowned prose works are his sermons, totaling around 160. Sermons were influential in 17th century England, and Donne, a powerful preacher in London, wielded significant influence through them. His sermons like Death's Due are intensely personal and emotionally appealing. They employed dramatic techniques to engage audiences, much like his poetry, featuring vivid imagery, sharp wit, analytical insight, and a focus on morbid themes. The conclusion of Death's Duel reflects Donne's dramatic appeal to emotions, his longing for peace in God. It describes the crucifixion of Christ in vivid detail, emphasizing his suffering and sacrifice. Sir Thomas Wyatt hailed from an ancient Yorkshire family, loyal to the Lancastrian side during the Wars of the Roses. He received his education at Cambridge and later served in the King's service, undertaking significant diplomatic missions. Wyatt found support from Cromwell during his public career, but after Cromwell's death, he was recalled from abroad and imprisoned in 1541, though acquitted later. He passed away shortly thereafter. Wyatt's poetry, though relatively short, gained attention after his death when his 96 love poems were published posthumously in Total's Miscellany in 1557. Among these poems were 31 sonnets, the first of their kind in English. While some were translations of Petrarch's work, all followed the Petrarchan form, though with Wyatt's introduction of a couplet ending. Serious and reflective, Wyatt's sonnets displayed stiffness in construction and metrical uncertainty, but marked an improvement over earlier poetry in conciseness and personal expression. Wyatt's epigrams, songs, and rondo show lighter tone and elegance typical of the emerging Romanticism. Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, associated closely with Wyatt, was known for his reckless temperament and involvement in court life and military service. He met Wyatt around 1542, and their poems published posthumously in Total's Miscellany displayed Surrey's metrical accuracy and polished style. Surrey's most significant contribution was his translation of parts of Virgil's Aeneid into English metre, published in 1557. Though the translation itself lacked outstanding merit, its use of blank verse marked a significant development in English poetry. In Surrey's work, we observe a higher poetic faculty, increased refinement, and the introduction of important metrical forms like the English sonnet and blank verse. Despite the wooden, inspired nature of his earliest blank verse, it serves as an important beginning in the evolution of English verse. Thomas Sackville, Earl of Dorset, was born in Buckhurst, Sussex, and received education from both Oxford and Cambridge. He pursued a legal career, served in Parliament, and undertook various diplomatic missions. Initially, his straightforward manner caused him trouble with Queen Elizabeth, leading to a period of disgrace. However, he regained favor, eventually becoming Lord High Treasurer and Earl of Dorset in 1604. While Sackville's poetry may not be extensive, its quality is significant. Two of his poems, The Induction and The Complaint of Henry, Duke of Buckingham, were published in the Mirror of Magistrates. Written in the rhyme royal stanza, these poems are melancholic and elegiac, employing archaic language, but exhibiting a beauty of thought and grandeur of expression not seen since Chaucer's time. They likely influenced Spenser's The Faerie Queene. Sackville also collaborated with Norton on the early tragedy Gorboduc. George Gascoigne was another influential figure of the Elizabethan era. Born in Bedfordshire, he was educated at Cambridge and pursued a legal career before entering Parliament. Gascoigne was known for his elegant lyrics and wrote one of the first regular satires in English, The Steel Glass, which was also written in blank verse. His works include the tragedy Jocasta, the first prose comedy Supposes, which served as the basis for Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, and certain notes of instruction concerning the making of verse and rhyme in English, the first English treatise on poetry. Gascoigne's versatility and skill typify the early Elizabethan writers. Sir Philip Sidney was a prominent figure in the Elizabethan literary scene, exerting significant influence before the heyday of Spenser and Shakespeare. Born into an aristocratic family in Kent, he received education at Shrewsbury and Oxford before embarking on extensive travels. Sidney participated actively in the military, literary, and courtly life typical of young nobles of his time, and tragically died at the age of 32 from wounds sustained at Zutphen while aiding the Dutch against the Spaniards. Though none of his works were published during his lifetime, Sidney's most notable achievement was a sequence of 108 love sonnets, the Aristophel and Stella, published in 1591. These sonnets, influenced by Petrarch and Ronsard, established Sidney as one of the greatest Elizabethan sonneteers after Shakespeare. Addressed to his mistress, Lady Penelope Rich, they express genuine lyric emotion in delicately archaic language. In form, Sidney typically employs the Petrarchan octave ABB AABBA with variations in the sestet including the English final couplet. Sidney's pastoral romance The Arcadia, published incomplete in 1590 and complete in 1598, tells an intricate love story embodying medieval chivalric ideals reflecting his own spirit. Though the narrative is complex and filled with secondary love stories, the characters are vague and idealized. The style, reminiscent of a poet writing prose, is melodious, picturesque, and ornamental, containing several fine lyrics. His Apology for Poetry, published in 1595, is a significant critical essay defending poetry against Puritan criticism, particularly responding to Gauzen's school of abuse. In clear, robust English, Sidney argues that poetry is superior to history or philosophy and serves to instruct through pleasure. Michael Drayton represents the later phase of Elizabethan literature. Born in Warwickshire, he worked as a tutor for a noble family before settling in London around 1590. Drayton's early works include metrical translations from the scriptures and long historical poems like England's heroical epistles and the Baron's Wars. His Polly Albion, a later work, is a lengthy and detailed description of England's geographical features, interspersed with tales written in Alexandrines. Drayton's shorter poems, such as his famous poem on Agincourt and his verse tales and pastorals like Nymphidia, showcase his skill and charm. While Drayton is not often considered an inspired poet, he is known for his diligence, versatility, and occasional delightfulness in works like Nymphidia. Phineas Fletcher and Giles Fletcher were brothers who are often linked in literary history. Both were educated at Cambridge and pursued careers in the church. They were both influenced by the poet Spenser. Phineas Fletcher's main work is The Purple Island, or The Isle of Man, a unique poem divided into 12 cantos that allegorically describes the human body. While the poem's structure is somewhat cumbersome and artificial, it contains many descriptive passages reminiscent of Spenser's style. The stanza form used in the poem is similar to Spenserian, but with the omission of the fifth and seventh lines. Giles Fletcher's most famous poem is Christ's Victory and Triumph, an epic poem in 4 cantos that focuses on the victory and triumph of Christ. The poem is characterized by its descriptive and imaginative style, marked by ornate and melodious language. It is said to have partially inspired Milton's Paradise Regained. The stanza form used in the poem is also reminiscent of Spenser's lacking the 7th line. While the Fletchers were imitators of Spenser, they were of high quality. Though they did not possess Spenser's original genius, they displayed intensity, color, melody, and great skill in meter. Samuel Daniel was born near Taunton in Somerset, educated at Oxford, and later became a tutor to the son of the Countess of Pembroke. He briefly held the position of Poet Laureate in 1599 and was appointed Master of the Queen's Revels by James I in 1603. Daniel's works include Delia, a sonnet series, The Complaint of Rosamond, a romance, and several long historical poems like the Civil Wars. He also wrote numerous masques with the Queen's Wake and the Hymen's Triumph, being the most notable. His sonnets, following the English tradition, uphold the legacy of Sidney, Spenser, and Shakespeare. His defense of rhyme is a notable piece of English criticism, arguing for the validity of rhyme in English poetry. While Daniel's sonnets are highly regarded, his longer poems are often considered prosaic and dull, though his masques exhibit imaginative touches. During this period, various poetical miscellanies were published, reflecting the enthusiasm for the revival of English poetry. These volumes contained collections of short pieces by different poets, both well known and unknown. Some notable examples include Total's Miscellany, The Paradise of Dainty Devices, A Handful of Pleasant Delights, The Phoenix Nest, and The Passionate Pilgrim, which includes works of Shakespeare, Marlowe, and Raleigh. England's stands out as the most important miscellany, featuring a wide range of high-quality poets. Pre-Shakespearean drama. The influence of ancient Rome playwright Seneca played a significant role in the development of English tragedy, particularly in the transition from medieval miracle plays to more sophisticated dramatic forms. Seneca, who wrote during the 1st century AD, created tragedies characterized by intense horror, exaggerated characters, highly rhetorical language, and emotional exaggerations. Seneca's influence first emerged in the Latin plays performed at universities, notably Cambridge, during the mid-16th century. By the late 16th century, all of Seneca's works had been translated into English, indicating his widespread popularity. This influence spread from the universities to the popular stage, reaching upcoming dramatists like Marlowe, Peele, and Greene, who were influenced during their time at university. The first English play to adopt Senecan form was Gorboduc in 1562, followed by Gascoigne's Jocasta in 1566 and Hugh's Misfortunes of Arthur in 1588. However, the most significant Senecan play was Kit's The Spanish Tragedy around 1589, which introduced the tradition of the revenge play. This tradition, characterized by themes of vengeance and moral complexity, influenced later works like Shakespeare's Hamlet and the plays of late Elizabethan and Jacobean dramatists such as Webster, Turner, and Marston. The University Wits were a group of young men, many of whom attended Oxford and Cambridge, who played a significant role in establishing the Elizabethan school of drama. They were often acquainted with each other and lived turbulent lives. Their plays shared several characteristics. They favored heroic subjects, often depicting the lives of prominent figures like Muhammad and Tamburlaine. Heroic themes were treated with grandiosity, featuring elaborate descriptions, lengthy speeches, and intense emotions. However, this sometimes led to excessive loudness and disorderliness. Their writing style was also grandiose, aiming for strong and impressive lines, majestic epithets, and powerful delivery. This approach could result in either impressive or bombastic writing, with Marlowe being a notable example of success. Tragic themes predominated in their works as the writers were earnest and serious in their approach. Comedy was often neglected or, when included, tended to be crude and lacking sophistication. The exception to this trend was Lilly, who introduced elements of romantic comedy in plays like Campaspe, Endymion, and The Woman in the Moon. George Peele was born in London and received education at Christ's School and Oxford. He pursued a career as a freelance writer in London, producing several plays including The Arrangement of Paris around 1584, a romantic comedy. The famous Chronicle of King Edward I, a sprawling historical play, The Old Wife's Tale, a clever satire on popular drama, and The Love of King David and Fair Bathsheba. Peele's writing style could be intense to the point of absurdity, but he displayed moments of genuine poetry. He demonstrated skill in handling blank with ease and variety, which was uncommon for his time, and his writing exhibited fluency and a fair amount of pathos. Peele's works represented a significant advancement in early drama, and he stands out as one of the more appealing playwrights of his era. Robert Greene was another significant figure in Elizabethan drama, despite his tumultuous personal life. Born in Norwich and educated at Cambridge and Oxford, Greene lived a life marked by debauchery and recklessness. He wrote numerous prose tracts, which are considered some of his best work, showcasing his intense energy, sharp wit, and vivid imagination. Among his plays are Alphonsus, King of Aragon, Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, Orlando Furiosa, and the Scottish history of James the Fourth. Green's plays lacked strong character development and his writing style was not exceptional, but he displayed a genial humor and less austere methods compared to other tragedians of his time. Thomas Nash was born in Lowestoft and educated at Cambridge. He moved to London in 1586 to pursue a career in literature, primarily through familiateering. Nash actively engaged in political and personal issues, which eventually led to his imprisonment in 1600 due to his confrontational methods. He completed Christopher Marlowe's Dido and authored the surviving play Summer's Last Will and Testament, a satirical masque. His prose tale, The Unfortunate Traveller, or The Life of Jack Wilton, is notable for its contribution to the development of the novel. Thomas Lodge hailed from a prominent family, received education in London and Oxford, and initially pursued legal studies before transitioning to a literary career. He likely collaborated with William Shakespeare and other dramatists, and his only surviving play is The Wounds of Civil War, a chronicle play. Lodge's familiateering was extensive, but his prose romances, though elaborate in the euphemistic style of John Lyly, gained him fame. Rosalind, Euphues' Golden Legacy, is his most famous romance, serving as the basis for Shakespeare's As You Like It. Thomas Kidd, a significant figure among the university wits, had a mysterious life. Born in London, he likely received education at Merchant Taylor's School and engaged in a literary career associating with Christopher Marlowe. Accused of composing controversial writings, Kidd endured imprisonment and torture, but died shortly after his release. His most notable surviving play, The Spanish Tragedy, garnered lasting popularity for its horrific plot and tragical conception reminiscent of Marlowe. Kidd's hand has been speculated in other plays, including Soliman and Persida, the first part of Geronimo, and possibly Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus. Christopher Marlowe was a renowned dramatist before William Shakespeare's time. Born in Canterbury and educated there and at Cambridge University, Marlowe pursued literature as a profession and joined the Lord Admiral's Players. His controversial lifestyle, marked by atheism and immorality accusations, ended abruptly with his death in a tavern brawl, saving him from arrest. Marlowe's plays, all tragedies, were written in a span of 5 years, 1587 to 1592. He lacked a comedic inclination, and the comic elements in his plays were often inferior and possibly added by other writers. While Marlowe's plot construction and characterization were limited, his works showcased a growing sense of theatre. His plays typically revolved around one dominant figure, lacking complexity or subtlety. Marlowe's plays are best understood as representations of a poetic vision, reflecting this Renaissance pursuit of power and beauty. His use of blank verse, though not the first in English drama, elevated the form to new heights, characterizing energy, vivid imagery, and rhythmic variety. Despite occasional bombast, Marlowe's verse remains unequaled in its technical precision and power. Tamburlaine the Great, centered on an inhuman figure, lacked dramatic complexity but showcased Marlowe's exceptional blank verse. Its sequel, the second part of Tamburlaine the Great, was inferior. The Jew of Malta demonstrated Marlowe's attention to Machiavellian villainy, while Edward II exhibited a skillfully woven plot and a new sense of dramatic requirements. Dr. Faustus had a strong beginning and ending weak comic scenes. The tragedy of Dido, Queen of Carthage, and the massacre at Paris were unfinished or of inferior quality. When examining Shakespeare's life, we have a fair number of established facts, but there is also a substantial amount of speculation and interpretation from commentators. Therefore, it's important for historians, especially those with limited space, to focus on the known facts and approach speculation with cautious skepticism. Shakespeare was baptized on April 26, 1564, in Stratford-on-Avon, possibly born on April 23rd, St. George's Day, the same date as his death in 1616. His father, John Shakespeare, held various occupations such as butcher, glover, and farmer. It's likely that Shakespeare attended the local grammar school, although his knowledge of Latin and Greek was limited. In 1582, at the age of 18, Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway, who was 8 years older. Speculation arose regarding their match due to the age difference. In 1584, Shakespeare left Stratford, possibly due to accusations of poaching on Sir Thomas Lucy's estate. Until 1592, when he re-emerged as an actor, little is known about Shakespeare's activities. It is suggested that he may have travelled through the country and eventually settled in London, where he performed various roles, including holding horses at the stage door. By 1595, Shakespeare was listed on the payroll of the Lord Chamberlain's Company of Actors, indicating his rising importance in the theatrical world. He prospered financially, acquiring property in London and Stratford. While he was a competent actor, his primary role was a playwright for his company. Around 1610, Shakespeare returned to Stamford and lived at New Place, a house he purchased in 1597. It's likely that he wrote his last plays there. His association with his acting company likely ended when the Globe Theatre burned down during a performance of Henry VIII in 1613. Shakespeare hastily executed his will on March 25, 1616, and passed away a month later on April 23rd. Shakespeare's early poems, Venus and Adonis and The Rape of Lucrece, both showed signs of his developing talent. While Venus and Adonis catered to popular taste with its heavily ornamented descriptions, it also contained lines of remarkable beauty. The Rape of Lucrece, however, was considered less impressive. In 1599, a collection titled The Passionate Pilgrim, containing poems attributed to Shakespeare, was published, though only one poem is definitively attributed to him. In 1609, a collection of Shakespeare's sonnets was printed, dedicated to Mr. H. Speculation persists about the identity of this individual, with William Herbert, Earl of Pembroke, being the most likely candidate. The sonnets themselves comprise 154 poems divided into two groups. The first group focuses on Shakespeare's friendship with a young man, possibly Mr. W.H., while the second group addresses a mysterious dark-haired mistress. The literary quality of Shakespeare's sonnets is widely acclaimed for their passionate depth, majestic style, and rich language. They contain numerous examples of exquisite phrasing and emotional intensity. Shakespeare's later poetic work includes numerous lyrical pieces found within his plays. While it is uncertain how much of these lyrics are original compositions, they showcase a wide range of styles and themes, from rustic simplicity to scholarly wit. These lyrics, such as Ariel's Full Fathom 5 and the poignant Fear No More the Heat of the Sun, demonstrate Shakespeare's prowess as a lyrical poet alongside his achievements as a dramatist. The plays of Shakespeare are often categorized into several groups based on their themes, style, and tone. The early comedies, these plays, like the Comedy of Errors, Love's Labour's Lost, and The Two Gentlemen of Verona, display Shakespeare's wit and wordplay, but lack the depth and maturity of his later works. They often feature young characters engaging in playful banter and humorous situations. The English histories. These plays, including Richard II, Henry IV Part I, Henry IV Part II, and Henry V, focus on English history and politics. Shakespeare explores themes of power, leadership, and the complexities of character, notably through figures like Richard II and Prince Hal. The mingling of low life with historical events is a notable feature. The mature comedies, plays like Much Ado About Nothing, Twelfth Night, and The Merchant of Venice represent the pinnacle of Shakespeare's comedic genius. They feature sophisticated wit, vibrant characters, and comic situations, showcasing Shakespeare's warmth and humanity. Prose is prominent in this group. The sober plays, All's Well That Ends Well, Measure for Measure, Troilus and Cressida, are categorized as comedies, but their tone is dark and tragic. These plays reflect a cynical view of life and often feature morally ambiguous characters and situations. The great tragedies, Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, and King Lear, are considered Shakespeare's greatest achievements. These plays delve into profound themes of human nature, featuring intense emotions, deep psychological insight, and powerful language. The Roman plays, Julius Caesar, Antony and Cleopatra, and Coriolanus, are based on Plutarch's lives and explore political intrigue and personal ambition. While they vary in intensity, they all exhibit Shakespeare's skill in character study and dramatic storytelling. The last plays, Cymbeline, The Winter's Tale, and The Tempest, represent Shakespeare's later period, characterized by a mellowed maturity. These plays feature themes of reconciliation and forgiveness with masterful storytelling and serene language, reflecting the culmination of Shakespeare's literary genius. In Shakespeare's plays, prose is frequently used, particularly in comedic scenes, but also appears in serious passages. It reflects the common language of the time and can be both pithy and refreshing. Even in instances of simple humor, its beauty shines through. Shakespeare did not always strive for originality in his plots. He masterfully adapted existing stories, chronicles, and tales to create his own unique narratives. In his mature works, he prioritized character development over plot, skillfully intertwining multiple storylines and infusing historical events with imaginative spirit. Shakespeare's unparalleled output spans a vast array of characters, from kings to clowns, lunatics to saints, lovers to misanthropes. His ability to bring such a diverse cast to life is a testament to his mastery. Shakespeare approaches his characters with a remarkable sense of subjectivity, portraying both vice and virtue with equal depth and authenticity. Characters like Iago, Claudius, Cleopatra, and Caliban embody complex mixtures of qualities, reflecting the common complexities of human nature. Shakespeare's characters possess a vital force that makes them feel alive and dynamic. Unlike wooden stereotypes, his characters are fully rounded and capable, evolving and developing throughout his plays. Shakespeare's mastery extends to the realm of meter, where he demonstrates exceptional range and power. In his earlier plays, his use of blank verse is marked by regularity in rhythm and pauses, often featuring rhymed couplets. As his career progressed, he experimented with various metrical forms, showcasing his evolving poetic skill. As Shakespeare grew more confident in his writing, his verse became more fluid and skillful. He experimented with the cadence of his lines, shifting pauses to different positions for effect. Eventually, he mastered the meter completely, bending it to his creative will. Shakespeare's distinctive writing style, often referred to as Shakespearean, is instantly recognizable even when found in the works of other authors. Describing it precisely is challenging as it possesses a unique blend of qualities. Shakespeare's language is characterized by its aptness and memorable phrases, many of which became part of everyday speech. His style exhibits a remarkable balance of sweetness, strength, and flexibility, reflecting his genius. Above all, there is an inherent sense of perfection and inevitability in his writing that marks it as truly exceptional. Ben Jonson was born in Westminster and educated at Westminster School. His father passed away before Jonson's birth, and he adopted his stepfather's trade as a master bricklayer. However, Jonson's interests soon turned towards other pursuits. He became a soldier, serving in countries before transitioning to acting and playwriting. Initially, he faced little success in his endeavors, and his confrontational nature often led to conflicts. In 1598, he was involved in a duel that resulted in the death of a fellow actor, narrowly avoiding execution. With the rise of King James I in 1603, Johnson found success in writing picturesque pageants known as masques for court. This period marked his most prosperous years, during which he produced his best work. By 1617, he was appointed to the king, solidifying his position as a leading figure in English literature. Known for his combative personality, Johnson frequented the Mermaid Tavern, where he held sway over younger literary talents. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, and his epitaph reads, "O rare Ben Jonson." Johnson's extensive body of work includes comedies, tragedies, masques, and lyrics, all showcasing a range of quality. Despite variations in merit, his writings reveal a consistent aim and adherence to certain principles. Johnson is considered the first great English neoclassicist, rebelling against the artistic trends of his time and seeking inspiration from classical literature. He believed in the instructive power of literature and approached his craft as a conscious artist and reformer. Johnson's comedies are divided into early, middle, and later works, each demonstrating his satirical, realistic style and mastery of plot and character. Notable comedies include Everyman in His Humor, Volpone or the Fox, and The Alchemist. His historical tragedies, modeled on classical themes, lacked the creative spark to make them truly great. Johnson's masques are abundant, graceful, and often feature humorous elements, such as the use of anti-masks to parody the main theme. Notable masks include the Mask of Beauty and the Mask of Queens. In the eyes of his contemporaries, Johnson was highly esteemed, but in later times his reputation has been somewhat overshadowed by the towering presence of Shakespeare. However, this should not diminish Johnson's considerable merits. While Shakespeare's immense stature cannot be denied, Johnson possessed many admirable literary qualities, though he lacked the elusive and profound essence of true genius. Johnson was learned, perhaps excessively so, and he displayed remarkable diligence and consistency in his work. He was versatile, displaying both a sharp wit and wry sense of humor, along with moments of sweetness and grace. His writing style was suitable for his purposes, and he demonstrated a keen understanding of the society and manners of his time, surpassing many of his contemporaries in this regard. However, he fell short of reaching the pinnacle of literary greatness because he lacked the magical quality, a transcendent ability to breathe life into words and create characters and worlds that feel more real than reality itself. Without this, he remains just shy of joining the ranks of the truly exceptional writers. Francis Beaumont and John Fletcher collaborated on a considerable number of plays, totaling around 52 in number. However, it is unclear how much of each play was written by each playwright. Fletcher, the elder of the two, hailed from Rye, Sussex, and may have received education at Cambridge. He lived as a literary figure in London and succumbed to the plague in 1625. Beaumont, on the other hand, likely had a stronger literary talent and came from a family of legal background. Educated at Oxford and initially involved with law at the Inner Temple, he has drawn to a career in literature. He passed away around the same time as Shakespeare and was buried in Westminster Abbey. Beaumont and Fletcher specialized in comedy, particularly focusing on the urban life of London. Influenced by both Shakespeare and Johnson, their plays tend to be more superficial compared to their predecessors. Often categorized as tragic comedies, their works are packed with dramatic events and stage appeal. While their plots are engaging and cleverly crafted, they can sometimes lack depth due to the emphasis on action over character development. Their dialogues are witty and clear, but they don't reach the same level of poetic richness found in Shakespeare's work. A notable feature of their collaboration is the distinction in their verse styles. Beaumont's blank verse tends to be regular and flexible, while Fletcher's is more irregular, often ending lines with an extra syllable. Some well known comedies include A King and No King, prized by Dryden as their best, The Knight of the Burning Pestle, a delightful farce, and The Scornful Lady. Their tragedies, such as The Maid's Tragedy, Philaster, and The Faithful Shepherdess, written solely by Fletcher, are marked by tragic elements but also contain attractive incidents and descriptions. George Chapman was born in Hitchin, but little else is known about his early life. He participated in the literary scene of his time, often getting involved in controversies. He passed away in London. Chapman's literary career began with his play The Blind Beggar of Alexandria in 1596, followed by numerous others, both comedic and tragic. Some notable works include Bussy de Amboy, Charles Duke of Byron, and The Tragedy of Chabot, all historical plays based on events close to his own era. His comedies include All Fools, Eastward Ho!, the latter of which he co-wrote with Johnson and Marston. Chapman's writing is skillful and enjoyable, showcasing firmness, versatility, and a considerable talent for both comedy and tragedy. Additionally, his translation of Homer captures the rhythm and essence of the original text. John Marston was born in Coventry and received education both there and at Oxford. He later became a prominent literary figure in London and eventually entered the clergy. In his later years, he resigned from his position in Hampshire and passed away in London. Marston, associated with the Senecan School of Drama, specialized in intense and melodramatic tragedies that often featured violent themes. While his works were impressive to his contemporaries and earned him praise comparable to Johnson, they have been criticized in later times for their tendency towards exaggeration, melodrama, and excessive speech. Notable examples of his tragedies include Antonio and Melida, Antonio's Revenge, both of which were satirized by Johnson in his play The Poetaster. Thomas Dekker was born in London, where he spent his life as a playwright and literary worker. His plays, mostly comedies, possessed a unique charm for their time. They were characterized by sweetness, sentimentalism, and a deep understanding of ordinary people and daily life, earning him the nickname the Dickens of the Elizabethan stage. Though his plots were often disorderly and his blank verse tended to give way to prose, Dekker's works were still appealing. Some of his notable plays include Old Fortunatus, The Shoemaker's Holiday, and Satyro-Mastix. Dekker collaborated with other playwrights such as Ford and Rowley on works like The Witch of the Edmundton and with Massinger on The Virgin Martyr. Thomas Middleton was born in London and was appointed city chronologer in 1620. He was known for his consistency and literary skill as a dramatist, with a penchant for fanciful themes and keen observation of contemporary life. While Middleton's works generally maintained a high standard, some rose to greatness. His most acclaimed play is The Changeling, praised by Lamb and others. Other notable works include Men Beware Women, The Witch, and The Spanish Gypsy, which resembled As You Like It. Middleton collaborated with Dekker on The Roaring Girl or Moll Cutpurse, which shared similarities with early novels. Thomas Heywood was born in Lincolnshire and became a playwright and author in London. He claimed involvement in around 220 plays, of which 23 survive. Heywood excelled in depicting London life and manners, demonstrating skill in quickly crafting stage situations. While he prioritized passable results over artistic heights, His best work includes A Woman Killed the Kindness and The English Traveller. Other plays include The Royal King and The Loyal Subject, The Captives, and various historical dramas. John Webster, who flourished in the early 17th century, is considered one of the greatest dramatists after Shakespeare. Known for his Senecan revenge tradition, Webster delved into themes of horror, crime, and turbulent emotions. His two major tragedies, The White Devil and The Duchess of Malfi, feature complex female characters, while his later works like The Devil's Law Case lack the same quality. Webster's dramatic poetry, marked by occasional false but powerful expression, remains notable. Cyril Tourneur appears to have been a soldier who served in the Low Countries. He participated in Buckingham's ill-fated expedition to Cadiz and passed away in Ireland upon his return. In Tourneur's work, we see a cruder adherence to the revenge tradition with layers of horror upon horror. His two plays, The Revenger's Tragedy and The Atheist's Tragedy, are highly melodramatic. Though Tourneur displays some poetic sensibility, he struggles with maintaining a strong narrative grip, method, and balance. Compared to Webster, Tourneur's work lacks strength where Webster excels. The English Bible, known as the Authorized Version or King James Bible, was completed in 1611 in response to the need for a standard text. It involved 47 scholars appointed to translate different portions of the Bible, resulting in a monumental work that remains highly respected. The translators built upon earlier translations, aiming to improve upon existing texts rather than create something entirely new. This resulted in a somewhat old-fashioned style due to reliance on previous work. Nevertheless, the translators demonstrated sound judgment and artistic taste. The Bible is not a single book, but rather a collection of literature spanning different genres and time periods. It includes various types of writing such as expository, narrative, and lyrical, authored by multiple individuals over centuries. Despite its diverse sources, the Bible maintains a remarkable unity in its treatment and spirit. Central themes include belief in the divine spirit, and particularly in the Old Testament, faith in the preeminence of the Jewish race. The language, influenced by earlier translations like Tyndale and Coverdale, remains consistent throughout. While important for their content, the expository sections offer less literary value compared to the narrative portions. Examples include the book of Deuteronomy in the Old Testament and the Pauline epistles in the New Testament, characterized by clarity, dignity, and precision. The bulk of the Bible consists of narrative passages, including the Pentateuch, Gospels, and Acts of the Apostles. The Old Testament narrative may be harsher and at times contradictory due to textual issues, while the New Testament narrative, influenced by Greek, tends to be more scholarly and liberal. Overall, both display a distinctive style marked by breadth, solidity, and a noble austerity. The lyrical parts of the Bible, including the Psalms, the Song of Solomon, sections of the Book of Job, and various poetic passages found in narrative books, are highly significant as literature. The Jews, in addition to their practical wisdom, possessed a strong emotional side, which is evident in their poetry. Their poetry, like that of Old English, followed rhythmic patterns with irregular beats or accents. The English translators preserved these Jewish rhythms while enhancing them with the musicality, cadence, and soaring quality of English prose. Thematically, Jewish poetry reflects the primal expressions of simple people regarding humanity's relationship with God and the universe. Its similes and metaphors draw from elemental aspects of nature such as the sky, flowing water, and gatherings of wild animals. Emotions are expressed with mystical and ecstatic fervor, conveying a sense of deep earnestness. The English Bible has exerted a significant influence on literature. Many biblical expressions have become ingrained in everyday language, such as a broken reed, the 11th hour, a thorn in the flesh, a good Samaritan, and sweat of the brow. Moreover, the style of the Bible has influenced numerous writers, contributing to simplicity, dignity, and elevation in their works. Writers like Bunyan embraced the biblical style fully, while others like Ruskin, Macaulay, Milton, and Tennyson incorporated elements of it into their writing, though to varying degrees. Francis Bacon was born in London to Sir Nicholas Bacon, who held the position of Lord Keeper of the Great Seal. The Bacon family was well connected in political circles, including the Cecils and other influential figures of the time. Francis Bacon was a fragile youth and received private education before attending Cambridge University. Later, he joined Gray's Inn in 1576. Seeking further education, he spent 3 years in France. Upon entering the legal profession, Bacon initially benefited from his family's influence, but he harbored ambitions for higher recognition. He entered Parliament in 1584, hoping for royal favor that never materialized. Despite earlier friendship, Bacon played a role in prosecuting Earl of Essex, who faced treason charges and was executed. With the accession of James I, Bacon's fortunes improved. He tirelessly advocated for the king's interests in Parliament and was eventually knighted in 1603. Rising through the ranks, he became Attorney General in 1613. However, his zealous enforcement of the king's divine right theories led to friction with Parliament. Bacon reached the pinnacle of his career in 1618 when he was appointed Lord Chancellor and given the titles of Baron Verulam and Viscount St. Albans in 1621. However, public dissatisfaction grew and Parliament accused him of bribery and corruption. Facing charges, Bacon admitted guilt, resulting in a hefty fine of £40,000, brief imprisonment in the Tower of London, and expulsion from court and office. In his final years, Bacon focused on literary and scientific pursuits, leaving behind a legacy of influential works. Francis Bacon was proficient in both Latin and English, with a preference for his Latin writings, which he considered more significant. In English, Bacon's notable works include his essays, initially comprising 10 pieces in 1597, but expanded to 38 in the second edition of 1612 and 58 in the third edition of 1625. These essays cover various topics like learning, studies, vainglory, and positions of power, reflecting the contemplations of a scholarly mind. Other English works include The Advancement of Learning, summarizing his philosophical ideas, The History of Henry VII, and Apothegms, a collection of witty remarks, and The New Atlantis, an unfinished philosophical tale inspired by More's Utopia. Bacon's Latin works formed a grand project known as Instauratio Magna, aiming to expound his philosophical theories. Though incomplete, it was structured as follows: De Augmentis Scientiarum, incorporating his English work on the advancement of learning. This treatise offers a broad overview of human knowledge, highlighting gaps and shortcomings in science. Novum Organum, explaining his new logic and inductive reasoning method, foundational to his philosophy. It consists of 9 sections, with the first receiving the most attention. Sylva Sylvarum, intended to provide a comprehensive understanding of natural philosophy and natural history, covering topics like winds, life and death, density and rarity, sound and hearing. Scala Intellectus, only a few initial pages exist. Prodromi, only fragments were written. Philosophia Secunda, this section was never undertaken. Roger Ascham is a representative figure of early Elizabethan prose. Born in Yorkshire, he received private education and later attended St. John's College, Cambridge, where he became a fellow in 1535 and a Greek teacher in 1540. Engaging in literary and religious debates, Ascham remained politically astute. He served as tutor to Elizabeth I in 1548, later becoming secretary to Queen Mary and undertaking diplomatic missions abroad. Ascham's notable works include Toxophilus, a dialogue on archery, and The Schoolmaster, an educational text with innovative ideas. While influenced by classical models, Asham exhibits strong Elizabethan rationality and expresses his ideas plainly and robustly, employing only basic literary devices like alliteration and antithetics. John Lilly represents a subsequent stage in the development of English prose. Born in Kent and educated at Oxford, Lilly pursued a literary career in London after failing to secure royal patronage. Initially successful, he later faced financial struggles and died impoverished. Lilly gained fame and fortune with his comedies, but it was his first prose work, Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, followed by Euphues and His England, that elevated him to prominence. Euphues is a travel romance featuring the adventures of a young Athenian named Euphues, interspersed with philosophical discussions. Notably, the work's distinctive prose style, characterized by mannered affectation and intricate linguistic devices, garnered widespread attention. Lilly's style, known as Euphuism, employed balanced phrases, elaborate alliteration, and ornate epithets drawn from classical sources. While quaint and appealing to contemporary literary taste, Euphuism occasionally burdens the narrative with its weightiness. Richard Hooker was born near Exeter and received his education at Corpus Christi College, Oxford, where he became a fellow in 1577. Ordained in 1582, he later held a position at a parish in Kent until his death. Hooker's principal work of the Laws of Ecclesiastical Polity occupied much of his life, though he completed only 5 of the proposed 8 books. He is renowned for defending episcopacy against Presbyterianism. His writing style, influenced by classical literature, is characterized by clarity, precision, and a pleasing rhythm, making him an early exemplar of accomplished English prose. Sir Thomas Overbury represents a significant group of Elizabethan writers. Born in Warwickshire and educated at Oxford, he rose to prominence at the court of King James I. His friendship with the king's favorite Robert Carr soared over a romantic entanglement, leading to the Overbury's imprisonment in the Tower of London, where he was mysteriously poisoned. Overbury is remembered for his work Characters, a collection of concise sketches depicting various social types such as milkmaid or a pedant. Written in an epigrammatic style filled with wit and conceits, these sketches demonstrate keen observation and a subtle sense of humor, reflecting the humorous craze of the time and contributing to the development of the essay genre. Robert Burton hailed from Leicestershire and was educated at Oxford, where he spent much of his life as a clergyman. His renowned work, The Anatomy of Melancholy, first published in 1621, offers a comprehensive exploration of melancholy, examining its causes, manifestations, and potential remedies. Despite its sober tone, the book displays a profound understanding of human nature and a pragmatic approach to its subject matter. Burton's vast learning, unconventional humor, and colloquial writing style, characterized by lengthy sentences filled with quotations and allusions, have captivated numerous scholars throughout history, including Dr. Johnson and Charles Lamb. Burton's distinct style and perspective firmly establish him as a unique figure in English literature. During the early 17th century, sermons gained significant literary importance, reaching a level of prominence not previously seen and seldom matched afterward. Among the notable sermon writers of this period were James Ussher and Joseph Hall. Ussher, born in Dublin and educated at Trinity College, Dublin, rose to become Bishop of Meath and Archbishop of Armagh. His numerous sermons and tracts demonstrated his scholarly approach, adept argumentation, and clear and accessible writing style. He also authored the widely regarded work Chronologia Sacra, a standard text on biblical chronology. Hall, educated at Cambridge, served as Bishop of Exeter and Norwich, a vocal opponent of the Puritans. He faced imprisonment and disgrace when they gained power, eventually passing away in retirement. Initially known for his satirical verse collection Virgidimarium, condemned by the church for its licentious content, Hall later focused on theological and devotional works. Though sometimes criticized for shallowness, he displayed literary grace and emerged as the most literary theologian of this time. In addition to sermon writers, the era saw a surge in translations characterized by a zeal for learning and adventure. Translators often prioritized conveying the spirit rather than exact wording of the originals, resulting in a diverse array of translated works. Classic texts such as Virgil's, Plutarch's Lives, and Ovid's were rendered into English alongside Italian works like Machiavelli's Art of Vain and Ariosto's Orlando Furiosa. From France came translations of Montaigne's essays and Comines' works, while Spain contributed translations of the Dial of Princes. Meanwhile, famletiers emerged as a new class of writers, producing a flood of short tracts on religion, politics, and literature. These famletiers, including Thomas Nash, Robert Greene, and Thomas Lodge, often earned their livelihood through writing plays and engaging in literary disputes, reflecting the buoyant and satirical tone of Elizabethan famletiering, characterized by unrefined and lively style. At the beginning of the Elizabethan era, English literary forms were still evolving, but by the end of the period, a diverse range of literary genres had emerged. Dramatic poetry flourished during this period, showcasing a remarkable evolution from the rigid verse of earlier works like Gorboduc to the vibrant blank verse of Shakespeare's plays. Marlowe's contributions further established blank verse as a dominant form in drama, characterized by energy, grandeur, clarity, and emotional depth. However, after Shakespeare, there was a decline in dramatic quality, with subsequent playwrights like Beaumont, Fletcher, Marston, and Dekker unable to match Shakespeare's greatness. The Elizabethan age was rich in lyrical poetry, ranging from early works of Wyatt and Surrey to the melodic compositions of the Campion and the introspective verses of Donne. Lyrical poetry found expression in various forms throughout the period, with musical, wild, and natural tones prevailing. Sonnets, both Italian and English forms, thrived during this era. Wyatt and Surrey initiated the trend, followed by Sidney, Spenser, Shakespeare, and Daniel. While the sonnet remained popular, especially in the English form, its prominence slightly waned in later years. Descriptive and narrative poetry encompass a wide range of works, including Sackville's Induction to the Mirror for the Magistrates, Marlowe's Hero and Lear, and Shakespeare's narrative poem like Venus and Adonis, and The Rape of Lucrece. Spenser's allegorical poetry stands out as a pinnacle in this genre, followed by works of poets like the Fletchers and Drayton, though the quality slightly declined over time. While religious, satirical, and didactic poetry existed during this period, it did not achieve the same level of importance as other genres. Notable examples include Gascoigne's Steel Glass, Donne's satires, Hall's satires, Drayton's The Harmony of the Church, and the religious poems of Southwell. During the Elizabethan era, dramatic literature underwent significant developments, starting with scholarly and aristocratic playwrights like Fulke Greville, Lord Brooke. The emergence of the university wits, including Peele, Greene, Lodge, Kidd, and Marlowe, marked a turning point, infusing drama with exuberance and vitality. Shakespeare's era represented the pinnacle of Elizabethan drama, embodying the essence of both drama and poetry. However, the decline began with Jonson, followed by Beaumont, Fletcher, Dekker, Heywood, and others. This decline was evident in the narrowing of themes, shallow characterization, and degraded style. Tragedy was the primary focus during Shakespeare's time, but post-Shakespearean drama saw a rise in popularity of light comedy due to shift towards melodrama. The Mask, a short dramatic performance for festive occasions, also gained prominence during this period. The essay genre began its development, evolving from pamphlet and miscellaneous writings, eventually reaching its height in the works of Bacon. The novel genre saw its beginnings in works like More's Utopia, Sidney's Arcadia, Lilly's Orpheus, and Bacon's New Atlantis. Literary criticism emerged focusing on the status of poetry, classical models, and the debate over the use of rhyme. Miscellaneous prose, including theological works, sermons, translations, and travels, became voluminous and influential, laying the foundation for future developments in English prose writing. Poetry during Elizabethan period underwent significant changes, transitioning from the clumsy poetry of earlier writers like Hawes and Skelton to the strength and beauty of Elizabethan poetry. The development of poetry can be divided into several stages. Formative and imitative period. This period saw the emergence of poets like Wyatt, Surrey, Sidney, and the university wits. It was characterized by a strong reliance on classical models, resulting in a style marked by precision and imitation. While new forms like the sonnet and blank verse were introduced, the influence of classical models remained strong. Lapses into less refined writing were not uncommon. Spenserian and Shakespearean stage. This stage witnessed the peak of poetic development. Native English genius, enriched by the lessons from foreign writers, infused its own spirit of youth and order into poetry. This period saw the flourishing of Spenser's lyrical allegories. Shakespeare's diverse works encompassing poems, dramas, and lyrics, as well as numerous other poets producing miscellanies, poems, and plays. The style of poetry during this stage was characterized by its fullness, freshness, and grandeur, unmatched in any other period of English literature. Decline in the early 17th century. By the second decade of the 17th century, signs of decline in poetry became apparent. The inspired language, rich vocabulary, and overall bloom of style gave way to lighter, unsubstantial verse and gloomier themes. Blank verse, once sinewy and powerful like Shakespeare's, became weak and lacking in drama, with prose becoming more common and coarse. While technical dexterity in lyric poetry persisted, the depth of passion and sincerity waned. In contrast to the fluctuating trajectory of poetry, prose experienced steady development throughout the Elizabethan period. The earlier phenomenon of euphuism, characterized by elaborate and artificial language, was a passing phase, leaving English prose healthier and more refined. The period witnessed an increase in the use of foreign words alongside advancements in sentence and paragraph construction, rhythm, and melody. Prose styles reached their peak in the works of writers like Hooker and Bacon, paving the way for further growth and refinement in the future.